the tranquil suburbs of Norfolk, the Hudson family's life was a portrait of everyday normalcy, until the fabric of their reality was torn apart by an unforeseen mystery. Angelica Hudson, a bright 18-year-old university student, was the gem of the household. With an infectious smile and dreams larger than life, she was the pride of her family. The Hudson household, once filled with the laughter of 4 daughters, had witnessed its share of changes. After the divorce of her parents in 2005, Angelica, the eldest, became a pillar of strength for her younger sisters. The girls found solace in each other's company, navigating life's challenges under the caring watch of their mother. It was a chilly March morning when Angelica returned home for the spring break. The air was filled with the budding promise of spring, and the family reunited under one roof, relishing the warmth of togetherness. Angelica's arrival brought a burst of energy into the house. Her stories about university life in London, her aspirations, and her innocent laughter enveloped the family in a cocoon of happiness. But this cocoon was fragile, and it shattered abruptly. Just a few days into her visit, Angelica vanished without a trace. The house, once echoing with her vibrant presence, stood hauntingly silent. Her room, with its unmade bed and open textbooks, was a stark reminder of her sudden disappearance. Her mother, a pillar of resilience, felt an icy dread clutching her heart. The world seemed to spin out of control as she grappled with the reality of her missing daughter. The normality of their life was replaced by a void, an unanswerable question. Where was Angelica? As days passed, the mystery deepened. The phone that once connected Angelica to her mother became a source of eerie, uncharacteristic messages. The texts, brief and lacking Angelica's usual warmth, only added to the growing fear. Something was terribly wrong, but what? The answers lay hidden, shrouded in the shadows of the unknown. In the Hudson home, where laughter once resided, a chilling silence now echoed, marking the beginning of a harrowing journey to uncover the truth behind Angelica's mysterious disappearance. The story of Angelica Hudson was not just a narrative of the present, but also a tale woven deeply with the threads of the past. Born on a warm summer day, August 9, 1996, Angelica's life was a tapestry of love, challenges, and resilience. The suburban landscape of Norfolk, with its serene streets and close-knit community, had been the backdrop of her childhood. Angelica's early years were filled with the typical joys and sorrows of a suburban family. She shared an unbreakable bond with her 2 younger sisters, a bond forged in the fires of their parents' tumultuous divorce in 2005. Despite the upheaval, Angelica emerged as a beacon of hope and stability for her siblings, her strength shining through in the darkest of times. The family dynamics shifted again in 2010 when their mother remarried. This union brought another sister into Angelica's life, expanding her role as the protective elder sibling. With each addition, the Hudson household grew in love and complexity, a mosaic of different personalities living under one roof. Throughout these changes, Angelica remained the constant star in her family's sky. Her academic prowess led her to the hallowed halls of a prestigious London university, a testament to her determination and intelligence. The journey from Norfolk to London was not just a 3-hour drive, but a leap into a world of greater possibilities and challenges. Despite the distance, Angelica's heart remained firmly rooted in Norfolk. Her visits home were celebrations, her presence a source of joy and comfort. She was more than just a daughter and a sister. She was a guiding light, a source of wisdom and laughter. Yet, amidst this seemingly idyllic life, the seeds of uncertainty were being sown. The suburban tranquility of Norfolk, once a safe haven, was now clouded with the inexplicable mystery of Angelica's disappearance. The echoes of her past, filled with love and laughter, now resonated with an eerie silence, a haunting prelude to the unsettling events that were about to unfold. The dawn of March 2, 2015, in Norfolk began like any other in the Hudson household, but it was destined to transform into a day etched in infamy. The morning air was crisp, with the sun casting a soft glow over the sleepy suburb, unaware of the turmoil about to unfold. Angelika, home for spring break, was the epitome of joy and vitality. She spent her days mingling with her family, her laughter a melodious tune in the household. Her mother, ever the nurturing figure, relished these moments, aware of how precious they were in the fleeting nature of time. That fateful morning, as routine set the tone, Angelika's mother prepared her younger sisters for school. There was a symphony in their morning rituals, a harmony of movements and chatter. Angelika, enjoying the luxury of a student on break, stayed back, waving goodbye to her siblings as they embarked on their day. The hours ticked by, the mundane nature of the day giving no hint of the chaos to come. It was only upon the mother's return from work that the world as they knew it began to crumble. The house, usually a sanctuary of warmth and safety, was eerily quiet. Angelika was nowhere to be seen. The scene at home was perplexing. It appeared as if Angelika had left in a hurry. The back door stood ajar, an unusual oversight in a family that valued security. Music still played softly in the background, a haunting soundtrack to the emptiness. Angelika's belongings were half-packed, as if she had been interrupted. Panic and confusion set in. This was unlike Angelika, known for her meticulous nature and considerate ways. She would never leave without informing her family, never venture out without her essentials. The disorderly state of her room spoke of an abrupt departure, a puzzle with missing pieces. As the sun set on Norfolk that day, a chilling realization dawned upon the Hudson family. Angelika, the heart of their home, had vanished into thin air, leaving behind a trail of questions and a growing sense of dread. The tranquility of their suburban life was shattered, giving way to a harrowing mystery that begged to be solved. In the days following Angelika's perplexing disappearance, her mother treaded a path fraught with anxiety and despair. The once comforting ring of her phone now became a harbinger of unease. The texts from Angelika, which should have been a source of solace, instead intensified the mystery. Each message was a paradox, brief and impersonal, a stark contrast to Angelika's usual detailed and affectionate texts. They were cryptic snippets, void of the warmth and vivacity that were Angelika's trademarks. The content was vague, the responses to her mother's frantic inquiries eerily evasive. Her mother's heart sank with each passing communication. Something about these messages didn't add up. They bore Angelika's name, but not her spirit. The cheerful girl who loved to share every detail of her life was nowhere to be found in these cold, concise texts. Confusion turned to alarm. The very essence of the messages hinted at something amiss, something profoundly wrong. The mother's instincts screamed that the person on the other end of these conversations was not her Angelika. But if not Angelika, then who? And why? This disturbing change in communication style was the first tangible clue that this was no ordinary disappearance. The mother, plagued by worry, could feel in her bones that her daughter was not just out with friends or needing space. This was something far more sinister, a nightmare unfolding in real time. As the night enveloped the Hudson household, the mother lay awake, tormented by the unknown. The eerie silence of Angelika's room across the hall was a constant reminder of the void that had engulfed their lives. The texts, so alien in their tone, echoed in her mind, a grim prelude to a truth that was yet to be revealed. With Angelika's mysterious texts sending ripples of foreboding through the Hudson home, her mother, gripped by a mother's intuition that something was terribly wrong, took the agonizing decision to involve the police. The family's private turmoil was now a matter for public scrutiny, the first step in a journey fraught with uncertainty and fear. The local police, upon receiving the report of Angelika's disappearance, plunged into action. The initial investigation painted a picture of a typical teenage girl, perhaps rebelling or seeking solitude, a narrative that seemed to align with the strange texts sent to her mother. Yet as they delved deeper, the simplicity of this explanation began to unravel. The police encountered the same unsettling inconsistencies that had plagued Angelika's mother. The texts, which initially suggested a voluntary departure, soon raised more questions than answers. The change in Angelica's communication style was unlike her, a puzzle piece that didn't fit. As the investigation progressed, the officers found themselves wading through a sea of conjectures and theories. Was Angelica a victim of an impulsive decision to leave, or was there a more sinister play at hand? Each clue seemed to lead to a dead end, deepening the enigma. The note discovered in Angelica's room added another layer of complexity to the case. It read like a farewell, a cryptic message indicating a desire to be alone. But to her family and friends who knew her as a vibrant and engaged young woman, this note was out of character, a contradiction to the Angelica they knew. The police, seasoned in the art of deduction, sensed that this was no straightforward case of a runaway student. The opened back door, the half-packed belongings, the uncharacteristically brief messages, and now this puzzling note. Each element of the case was like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, hinting at a larger, more disturbing picture. As the days passed with no sign of Angelica, the shadows of suspicion grew darker. The Norfolk community, once a haven of tranquility, was now gripped by the mystery of the missing girl. The question on everyone's mind was the same. What had happened to Angelica Hudson? The search for answers had only just begun, and the path ahead promised to be anything but straightforward. As the Norfolk police delved deeper into the perplexing case of Angelica Hudson's disappearance, a startling discovery shifted the direction of the investigation. It came from an unexpected source. A neighbor, Cody, who lived not far from the Hudson family. Cody, a young man with a quiet demeanor, had stumbled upon a piece of evidence that would cast him into the center of a brewing storm. While walking near his home, he found a fragment of a credit card lying abandoned, a discovery he would normally dismiss. But these were not normal times. The community was abuzz with the news of Angelica's disappearance, and every clue held potential significance. Upon closer examination, Cody realized with a jolt of shock that the credit card piece bore the name Angelica Hudson. The implications were grave, and without hesitation, he brought this piece of evidence to the police, unknowingly stepping into a web of suspicion. The police, already grappling with a case shrouded in mystery, were intrigued by this new development. The fragment of Angelica's credit card, found near Cody's home, added a perplexing twist. What were the odds of such an item, linked to the missing girl, being found in proximity to a neighbor? Cody's discovery placed him under the police's intense scrutiny. He was interrogated, his background checked, his alibi for the day of Angelica's disappearance closely examined. The interrogation was grueling, lasting over 12 hours, as the police probed for any crack in his story, any sign of guilt or complicity. Yet despite the mounting pressure and the suspicious nature of his find, Cody's account remained consistent. He maintained his innocence, and his alibi for the day in question checked out. The police were left in a quandary. Was Cody a suspect, or just an unwitting participant in a larger, more complex puzzle? The community, once a tight-knit fabric of trust and familiarity, began to fray at the edges. Cody's involvement, whether innocent or not, cast a shadow of doubt and fear. The once friendly faces were now marked with suspicion, and whispers filled the air. Angelica's disappearance had not only taken her from her family, but had also unraveled the sense of security and peace in Norfolk. The discovery of the credit card piece was a jigsaw puzzle in itself, a clue that opened more questions than answers. The search for truth was becoming more desperate, the need for closure more acute. The mystery of Angelica Hudson was deepening, drawing the entire community into its vortex. As the investigation into Angelica Hudson's disappearance deepened, suspicion began to swirl around an unexpected figure, Wesley Hudson, Angelica's estranged father. His past, marred by a series of run-ins with the law, painted a troubled picture, casting him in a sinister light amidst the ongoing mystery. Wesley, a man whose life had been a patchwork of poor choices and legal entanglements, found himself thrust into the spotlight. His history was checkered. A myriad of arrests for petty crimes and substance abuse, The most disturbing of these was an alleged incident where he kidnapped and assaulted his own wife, an accusation that he had managed to evade with a lack of conclusive evidence. This tumultuous past, however, paled in comparison to his most recent transgression. Just weeks before Angelika's disappearance, a volatile argument had erupted between Wesley and his wife, leading to his expulsion from the family home. Since then, he had been living a transient life in a local motel, a detail that added a layer of complexity to the investigation. When the police turned their attention to Wesley, they found a man seemingly unraveled by life's hardships, yet his demeanor raised more questions than answers. His responses were evasive, his alibis vague, and his behavior increasingly erratic. The detectives couldn't ignore the glaring possibility that Wesley might be involved in his daughter's disappearance. Their suspicions deepened when they discovered Wesley's recent possession of illegal firearms and ammunition. For a man with a history of violent tendencies, this was a damning revelation. The police acted swiftly, apprehending Wesley for the illegal possession of firearms, an arrest that also allowed them to probe deeper into his potential involvement in Angelika's case. The community of Norfolk, already reeling from the shock of Angelika's disappearance, found themselves grappling with the possibility that her own father might be implicated. The man who should have been her protector could potentially be her assailant. As Wesley sat behind bars, the mystery surrounding Angelika's fate hung heavily in the air. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together, but the picture they formed was one of tragedy and betrayal. The search for Angelika continued, but now under the shadow of a harrowing suspicion that her disappearance was not just a case of a young girl lost, but a sinister plot woven within the very fabric of her family. The investigation into Angelica Hudson's disappearance took a dramatic turn when, several days into the search, a crucial piece of evidence emerged, pointing detectives toward a grim reality. It was Wesley Hudson's work vehicle that held the key, revealing a trail that had been meticulously hidden. The police, in their thorough search, had seized Wesley's vehicle, a routine part of the investigation given his emerging status as a prime suspect. Inside, they discovered items that sent a chill down their spines: a shovel, duct tape, and dark gloves, tools that spoke of sinister intentions. But it was the vehicle's GPS system that proved to be the most revealing. Expert analysis of the GPS data painted a chilling narrative. It showed Wesley's movements in the days following Angelika's disappearance, leading to a desolate location, far from the prying eyes of Norfolk's residents. The data was precise, irrefutable, and deeply unsettling. Armed with this information, the detectives set out to the remote location identified by the GPS. It was a forgotten area, where an abandoned house stood, a silent witness to untold secrets. The search team scoured the area, the heavy burden of expectation weighing upon them. Then, in a shallow ditch near the abandoned structure, hidden beneath a piece of plywood, they made a heart-wrenching discovery. It was Angelika. Her lifeless body lay concealed, crudely covered, as if to erase her existence from the world. The grim reality of her fate was now painfully clear. This was no case of a runaway student. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Norfolk community. The girl who had vanished without a trace had been found, but not in the way anyone had hoped. The tragedy of Angelika's fate was compounded by the circumstances of her discovery: not lost, but taken; not missing, but hidden. As the news of the discovery spread, the Hudson family grappled with a torrent of emotions. Grief, disbelief, and anger engulfed them. The painful truth that Angelika had been found in such a manner was a devastating blow, a stark contrast to the hopeful, vibrant young woman she had been. The police, now armed with tangible evidence, intensified their investigation. Angelika's body was sent for forensic analysis, a necessary step in piecing together the final moments of her life. The weight of the evidence pointed towards a sinister act, a planned and executed vanishing that had now turned into a murder investigation. The tranquil streets of Norfolk, once a haven of peace and security, now echoed with the sorrow of a tragedy. Angelica Hudson, once a beacon of hope and joy in the community, had become a symbol of a family's worst nightmare realized. The search for answers continued, but the path ahead was laden with sorrow and the dark shadow of betrayal. The discovery of Angelica Hudson's body marked a turning point in the investigation, a grim conclusion to the frantic search that had gripped Norfolk. The community, once bound by neighborly trust, now faced the harrowing truth of a life cut tragically short. But for the detectives, the discovery was just the beginning of unraveling the full extent of the crime. The autopsy of Angelica's body brought forth startling revelations. Tests revealed a lethal dose of controlled substances in her system, 3 times the amount capable of causing death. This finding shook the very foundations of the Hudson family's understanding of their daughter. Angelica, known for her vibrant lifestyle and commitment to sports and academics, had never shown any inclination towards substance abuse. This shocking revelation raised a sinister possibility. Had Angelica been forcibly administered these substances, the placement of her body, carefully concealed and buried, pointed towards foul play, a calculated attempt to disguise a murder as an unfortunate accident. The investigation turned its focus back to Wesley Hudson, already in custody for illegal possession of firearms. The correlation between the location identified by the GPS data from his work vehicle and where Angelica's body was found was too significant to ignore. The circumstantial evidence was building, painting a grim picture of a father possibly involved in his own daughter's demise. Interrogation of Wesley intensified, with detectives probing for inconsistencies and admissions. However, Wesley remained adamant in his denial, offering explanations that strained credibility. His claims of being set up and his insistence that he had not visited the location where Angelica was found clashed with the undeniable GPS data. The puzzle was complex, but the pieces were slowly fitting together. The Norfolk police, determined to seek justice for Angelica, meticulously gathered evidence, aware that they were building a case that hinged on circumstantial evidence and forensic findings. As the case against Wesley Hudson solidified, the community of Norfolk grappled with the disturbing reality. The man who should have been Angelica's protector was now the prime suspect in her tragic end. The betrayal was profound, a stark deviation from the father-daughter bond sacred in its trust. Angelica's story, once full of promise and potential, had taken a dark turn, leaving her family and community to wrestle with the pain and disbelief. The pursuit of justice for Angelica was more than just a legal battle. It was a quest to restore a semblance of peace to a community shattered by an unimaginable tragedy. As the winter of 2022 settled over Norfolk, the trial of Wesley Hudson commenced, a somber conclusion to a saga that had begun with the mysterious disappearance of his daughter, Angelica. The courtroom became the stage for a drama filled with grief, accusation, and the relentless pursuit of truth. The prosecution presented a compelling narrative, piecing together the circumstantial evidence that painted Wesley as the orchestrator of his daughter's tragic end. Central to their argument was the GPS data from Wesley's work vehicle, placing him at the desolate site where Angelica's body was discovered. This, combined with the lethal substances found in her system and the suspicious circumstances of her burial, formed the backbone of their case. Wesley's defense team countered with an alternative explanation. They painted a picture of a troubled young woman, suggesting that Angelica's death was a result of her own actions, a theory that clashed with everything known about her. They pointed to the lack of direct physical evidence linking Wesley to the crime, emphasizing the absence of his DNA on Angelica's body. The trial, a tumultuous journey through testimonies and evidence, left the jury with a daunting task. They were to sift through the layers of circumstantial evidence and conflicting narratives to reach a verdict. The weight of their decision hung heavily in the courtroom, a decision that would seal Wesley's fate and offer a semblance of closure to Angelica's grieving family. After hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. Wesley Hudson was found guilty of the murder of his daughter, Angelica. The courtroom, charged with a mix of relief and sorrow, witnessed Wesley receiving a life sentence, a consequence of a crime that had shattered a family and rocked a community to its core. Wesley, in a final act of defiance, vowed to appeal the verdict, clinging to his claims of innocence. His conviction, while providing legal closure, left lingering questions in the absence of direct physical evidence. The shadow of doubt, however thin, hung over the case, a reminder of the complexities of justice. As the trial concluded, the Hudson family and the Norfolk community were left to grapple with the aftermath. Angelika's life, once brimming with potential, had become a story of caution and sorrow. Her untimely death was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictable nature of human relationships. The story of Angelica Hudson, a bright young woman with dreams and aspirations, had come to a close, but her memory lived on in the hearts of those who knew her. In the quiet streets of Norfolk, her spirit lingered, a reminder of the preciousness of life and the deep scars left by its loss. The quest for truth had ended, but the journey of healing was just beginning for a community forever changed.